Is Odin really distant, or have we misunderstood the Allfather? If you spent time in modern heathen circles, you've probably heard the same repeated over and over again. Odin is distant. Odin rarely reaches out. He's difficult to know. Some even describe him as an absent father, a god who rarely reveals himself. But what if we've been looking at the Allfather from the wrong perspective? What if Odin isn't distant because he doesn't care, but because he has never stopped walking the path that has always defined him? The path of the wanderer, the path of the seeker, the endless pursuit of wisdom. Today I'd like to explore a different way of understanding Odin. Not as an unquestionable truth, but as food for thought. The god who never stops searching. When we read the myths, one thing becomes immediately obvious. Odin never settles. He is always searching, always asking questions, always looking beyond the next horizon. He gives up one of his eyes at Myrmir's well. He hangs upon Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights to discover the runes. He lured Sidra even though it was considered controversial for a male god. He consults giants. He speaks with the dead. He sends Hugin and Munin across the worlds every day to gather knowledge. Everything about Odin points towards one truth. He believes there's always something more to learn. The burden of knowing. Imagine carrying responsibility not just for one kingdom, but for 9 worlds. Imagine knowing Ragnarok is coming, knowing that terrible events lie ahead, knowing that every decision you make could shape the future of gods and humanity alike. Would you stop searching? Or would you spend every waking moment trying to find another answer? Perhaps this is why Odin never rests, because he cannot afford to. The search itself becomes his duty. A different kind of protector. Thor protects the world with strength. When giants threaten Midgard, Thor answers. His protection is immediate, visible, direct. Odin protects differently. He seeks knowledge before disaster arrives. He searches for wisdom that may one day save lives. Thor fights the battles we can see. Odin prepares for the battles we cannot yet imagine. Neither role is greater. They simply protect in different ways. The Wanderer. One of Odin's most famous names is the Wanderer. He rarely remains upon his throne. Instead, he travels, sometimes disguised as an old man, sometimes alone, sometimes among gods, sometimes among giants, sometimes among humanity. He isn't wandering because he is lost. He wanders because truth cannot always be found in one place. The world itself becomes his teacher. Why does Odin seem so distant? Perhaps because seekers are rarely still. Think about the greatest explorers, scientists, researchers, teachers, historians, the people who dedicate their lives to expanding human knowledge. They often disappear for months, sometimes years, not because they love their families less, but because their work demands it. What if Odin is no different? What if the Wanderer is constantly travelling the unseen roads between worlds because the search for wisdom never ends? Odin never keeps wisdom for himself. This to me is one of the most overlooked parts of Odin's character. Yes, he sacrifices. Yes, he suffers. Yes, he constantly seeks knowledge. But what does he do once he finds it? He shares it. The greatest example is the runes. Odin endured unimaginable suffering to obtain them. He could have kept them hidden, reserved only for the gods. Instead, he passed them on. Knowledge became a gift, not a possession. That tells us something important about the Allfather. His pursuit of wisdom isn't driven by greed. It's driven by purpose. The ravens tell a story. Every day Hugin and Munin fly across the 9 realms. Every evening they return. They whisper everything they have seen into Odin's ears. Notice something interesting? Even Odin doesn't assume he already knows everything. The king of the gods still listens, still learns, still asks questions. There is a humility hidden inside that image. True wisdom begins by accepting that there is always more to discover. Perhaps we expect the wrong thing. Sometimes modern people expect the gods to behave like permanent companions, always present, always comforting, always speaking. But Odin has never been portrayed that way. The myths paint a different picture. A traveller, a philosopher, a king carrying impossible responsibilities, a god willing to sacrifice everything for knowledge. Perhaps expecting Odin to remain constantly at our side is like expecting the sun never to set. It misunderstands his nature. A personal reflection. Now, this brings me to a thought that has stayed with me. Again, this is simply my own interpretation, but perhaps explains why so many people describe Odin as distant. Maybe he isn't absent because he has forgotten us. Maybe he is absent because he is still searching, still walking between worlds, still speaking with giants, still questioning the unknown, still sending his ravens into places no one else can reach, still carrying the burden of trying to understand a universe that could never truly be understood, because the search for knowledge never ends. Conclusion. Perhaps Odin's greatest lesson isn't hidden within the runes, or the well of Mimir, or even upon the branches of Yggdrasil. Perhaps his greatest lesson is this: never stop asking questions. Never believe you know everything. Never stop seeking wisdom, because the journey itself is part of the answer. And perhaps, just perhaps, Odin isn't distant because he has forgotten us. Perhaps he is distant because he is still walking the roads between worlds, still asking questions no one else has thought to ask, still seeking wisdom that one day he will share. The search for knowledge never truly ends. And perhaps neither does the wanderer's journey.